Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, this is Prime Gaming here, and today we are back with another commentary. And today what I actually wanted to discuss as a topic was Arkham City, well not Arkham City, just the Arkhamverse in retrospective. So for those who don't know, the Arkhamverse is literally made up out of 3 games, even though it's technically 5 games, which is Arkham Asylum, Arkham Arkham City, Batman Arkham Origins, Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, and then Batman Arkham Knight. Now, the reason that most people say 3 is because Arkham Origins is actually made by another developer called Warner Bros. Montreal, not to be confused with the Rocksteady-made games Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum, and Arkham City. Now, the reason I wanted to make this retrospective game is a lot of people don't really know the Arkham series. They watch the videos, they see the gameplays, but they don't really know how the Arkhamverse started, what caused the Arkham, what inspired the Arkhamverse, and the importance it has on video game impacts. So for you to know how much this impacted the superhero video game genre, you have to have a little bit of background on knowing when it comes to superhero video games. Batman has been having video games ever since 1976. In 1976, they were not the best games whatsoever. They had shortcomings, even though they were mostly styled almost like Mega Man 2. Batman didn't really have a good game until the first Batman from 1989, which was on the NES and the Sega. Now those games were actually pretty decent. They were actually really good. They were a good time, but they are not like the games we know today. As I repeat, most games there were platformers, mostly kind of around like Mega Man or Contra. So those games were heavily influenced by that style. You could totally see that as it was going on. Now, Batman has had a lot of games similar that kind of influenced the Arkham Knight style. Batman Dark Tomorrow was one of those. Even though Batman Dark Tomorrow, even though it explored some of those reaches, did not really perform as well. It was not one of the most influenced games. Batman Vengeance was based on the Batman animated series. Didn't really go well as well, even though it was kind of a free roam game, kind of had its moments, not really the best. But then again, superhero games were the wild back then. We got a bunch of games, but then again, one of the most infamous video games ever is also one of the worst superhero games ever made, which was Superman 64. Now, when you go to those games, you realize superhero games are not really well made. Rocksteady actually was not the one who came up with making an Arkham game. They were included, but the real Arkham series started in 2007 with Arkham Asylum. 2007, a small British studio called Eidos partnered up with Square Enix and a newly formed Rocksteady to actually make the first Arkham Asylum game, which wasn't released until 2009. Now, when you realize what Arkham Asylum does start it all, it kind of starts off with the point Batman is dragging in Joker once again so he can be put down to justice and locked up in his cozy den in the asylum. Now, if you know the Joker, things are not what they seem. He had a plan. His plan was set in motion since the beginning. Joker was planning to get thrown in there and makes it the longest night for Dark Knight. Curiously, that's pretty much a tagline that's been used for every Asylum game. The Dark Knight's longest night. Asylum was technically supposed to be the longest night until City came, and then came Arkham Knight, which literally took the strongest night they could have used to make it the longest, as Arkham Knight is the only one that really takes place during a holiday that is made by Rocksteady. Arkham Origins does take place on Christmas Eve. However, it is not made by Rocksteady, so we don't really count that in. Now, when it comes to influences, the Arkhamverse was kind of influenced by Paul Dini's and Bruce Timm's Timmverse. For those who don't know what the Timmverse is literally the universe that consists of the animated Warner Bros. Cartoons, starting with Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, Batman Beyond, Static Shock, you name it. Those old, from 90s all the way to early 2004, that was technically called the Timmverse. Now, one thing that really stood out of the Timverse, its dark, gritty story. It wasn't really all about like flashy details or anything, but it was a little bit more related to having more influenced storylines. Same thing with the Arkhamverse. The Arkhamverse has dark, gritty storylines, but at the same time, it has every single aspect of Batman that was used there, and then a couple of some. As the Arkham series is technically based around with different little influences. Its influence when it comes to story and Batman actually using his detective skills and his combat can be derived from the animated series. But then again, the way he uses his gadgets is mostly significant from the Tim Burton films more than anything. I know Schumacher did continue with the films after that, but there wasn't a giant use of gadgets during those. Now the gadgets that were inspired by actually Tim Burton were the remote-controlled Batarang, which was used in Batman Returns, the line launcher that was used in the 1989 Batman film. Batarangs, sort of. Even though he kinda used Shuriken instead of Batarangs in the first movie. The Batclaw was introduced in the Batman Returns movie as well. So a lot of the gadgets we see here were kind of used there. Smoke pellets have always been used, so we can't really use that one as much. Now, when it comes to the actual story, the Arkhamverse is kind of the story of... It doesn't really start at the beginning of the Dark Knight's career. If you think about it, ever since Arkham Asylum, this has been the story of the end of the Dark Knight's career as a vigilante. Because starting from Asylum, Batman's health starts degrading. As in the Arkham Asylum, he actually gets poisoned with the Titan virus, which he gets a cure for, but it's not a complete cure. Then in Arkham City, he gets poisoned by the Joker's blood, which was poisoned by the Titan formula as well. Except he was completely out to transform, so Titan had an unreasonable effect on him, making him practically incurable. However, he does make a cure with help of Mr. Freeze and the blood of Ra's al Ghul, making him a little bit more healthier than usual. However, it did have a side effect of making the Joker kind of hallucinate him, as he was, I don't really remember what the name of that disease was that Batman mentioned in Arkham Knight, but he does say that in a way that makes him feel like, okay, the formula is slowly killing me, it's making me turn into a Joker. Now that had already happened to 4 other patients during the story mode, when the short lapse of Arkham City to Arkham Knight. Now, mind you, the Arkham games don't take that long between each other. However, the time does take its toll on Bruce. Because from Arkham City to Arkham Knight, a whole 9 months have passed. So, considering time, you can tell that Arkham City probably took place January, February. Most preferably January going into February was probably when Arkham City happened. Now, Arkham City takes a whole year after Arkham Asylum. So this is literally just the span of 2 years that's been going on. The Arkhamverse really takes place 2 years span. Now, when you think about it, here's the reason why a lot of people say Arkham Origins doesn't fit in. Because Arkham Origins is technically the beginning of... He's already been the Batman for 2 years, and according to the Arkham Origins multiplayer, since it was the only Arkham game to actually involve multiplayer, and a lot of them criticize it because it was a game that, if you realize, it seemed like they had focused on multiplayer a little bit more than they should have. And when you see there that Dick Grayson is Robin, something that had never been implied in the other Arkham games, as we go straight to Tim Drake in Arkham City. Knowing that Tim Drake is Robin at this moment, we realize Jason Todd has already passed, and Dick has already evolved, well, not evolved like a Pokemon, more like donned the Nightwing outfit. Here's the thing that kind of was a contingency. That means, supposedly, Arkham Origins takes place 5 years before Asylum. Now, here's the thing that doesn't wrap around our heads is Barbara Gordon looks like a 15-year-old in Arkham Origins. However, it is cleared up in the Arkham Knight comic Batgirl Begins. because it shows everything from Origins, but you realize that she's not 15, she's actually an 18-year-old woman. Kinda makes more sense when the first time she actually dons a Bat outfit to become Bat, to help out and become Batgirl. However, the first time she dons the outfit, if you read the comic book, is against Killer Moth. One person we have not seen whatsoever in the Arkham games. Probably for better, probably for worse, don't know. Now, when it comes to that, we have seen that she donned the makeshift outfit that was made by GCPD, and that's when she was made. So you can tell that she was around 18 based on the comic books when she came here. Origins did not clear that up her age that well. Origins was kind of everywhere when it came to its story. But at the same time, it did endear a good time because Origins did follow a bunch of storylines from the comic books, even though it seemed to be heavily influenced by the Nightfall comic book, as Bane actually figures out what his identity is. Now, here's the thing about the Arkhamverse. You can't really pinpoint it to one game of what is right and what is wrong, since the Arkham games are literally just a mashup of different comic book arcs when you realize it. Arkham Knight has a mashup of The Killing Joke and Death in a Family. I mean, it has the Jason Todd arc, it has the Barbara Gordon becoming Oracle, Red Hood. It just goes through a bunch of things in one game. Things that we hadn't expected, just like Arkham Origins went through the gang war, Nightfall. But even though Nightfall was started to be hinted in Arkham City, because Azrael, the one person who becomes Batman during the Nightfall arc, first appears in Arkham City, later to be seen in Arkham Knight, having kind of a crucial plot point when it comes to the most wanted missions, not really when it comes to story mode, as he just kind of says, I know you're gonna need a successor any moment now, so heck, test me. Now, that is pretty much all we have when it comes to the Azrael. However, we don't know anything else. Now, 2016 does bring a new Batman game. However, it's not gonna be an Arkham game whatsoever, since the Arkham series is over. Rocksteady has held up his mantle. The Arkham games are good and through. Arkham Knight was the last one. However, in 2016 we are getting a new Batman game made by Telltale Games. Now, Telltale Games are the ones responsible for the masterpieces such as The Walking Dead Season 1 and 2, Minecraft Story Mode, which is actually really good. It was actually really good. It was a really interesting take on Minecraft. And then there was well, Game of Thrones, which was okay.
How's he doing this? I thought we had the upper hand. The sense must be broken. He's tracking it. What the hell? I'm gonna check on this guy to